Exec, does she know? She didn't
Send
email.
reminders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent enough, you sent, yeah, you sent enough.
And then also we have QR codes.
Yeah, we were reminded. Exec, does she know?
All right. Your go, Leslie.
Great. Welcome to this big group of our budget task force for the fiscal year 2025. So this is now, I guess, our CB4 and Annual Community Board hybrid meeting introduction. MCB4 has adopted a hybrid meeting policy whereby we will meet both in person and virtually. All community board committee meetings will require an in-person quorum to come to order and conduct business. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance as defined by the New York State Open Meetings Law. Excused committee members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Committee members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. We encourage members of the public to join virtually. The MCB4 hybrid policy can be found on our website, and tonight's meeting is still being recorded and is currently live streaming on YouTube. And if anyone misses it live, it will be on our YouTube channel. Right, Jesse?
Yes.
On the YouTube channel for reference. So thanks, guys, for coming. So I guess just a little introduction, though I know everyone here knows, but just in case anyone is watching or will look at it on YouTube, this is where our community board identifies and prioritizes needs throughout the district. Usually first, well, not usually, mostly first in committee. Throughout the year, we identify projects, priorities through letters and presentations. And then we come each year to this committee and we take all of those requests, letters, priorities, and then we also marry it to what we have this year, like we've been doing in the past years, is a public survey. And we see what are the priorities in general of members of our district. So that's how we're going to start off. Now, we will probably not be voting today. This is just an introduction of kind of the direction we're going to go. Our committees so far this past month, right? I think everyone in September has at least introduced what is going to be their priorities for each committee. And then next month, we expect that committees will vote on what they think are their priorities, and then those priority lists will kind of get put into our big pot for us to look over and then put into a grand statement of district needs priority list. So I also want to mention, which is actually a really good thing that's happening this year, before we get into our Dropbox materials, is that DCP this year is actually offering to set up Zooms with all community board budget task force and committees to provide some, I guess, some insight, some clarity on responses. So Alan, all the responses that says need more, was it research or, you know, Steve needs further study. Hi, Christine. Good. Needs further study. They're going to kind of explain to us how they get to these responses, why they respond in certain manners. So this is going to be open at least for CB4. We thought we'd take advantage of this because this is the first time, at least I remember, that this offer is being made.
Who's doing it? I'm sorry.
DCP.
Department of City Planning.
Yep. City planning.
So just clarity, Department of City Planning is the agency tasked with managing the statement of district needs and budget requests for all of the boards. So that's what we send in that's the agency we send in a final document to. Their job is then to break it up and send it out to the different agencies, get the responses back, produce the they send OMB, the final, the response, the budget responses, we get those, so that's why DCP is taking the lead on this.
So that will be open to anyone on the budget task force who wants to attend. And really we'll open it up to anyone on exec who wants to attend to it. I think it'll just give us some clarity moving forward or kind of deciphering what their language is whenever we ask, right? Or at least attempt. So that's going to be this Friday, September 29th at 11, a.m. It's a Zoom.
I'll include everybody, I can send everybody.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, it's not a public meeting, it's just really more informational meeting for us, an internal meeting, just so we can kind of, like I said, decipher some of their responses and language. Okay, so has everyone gotten a chance to look at the Dropbox?
Yes.
I don't know, great. I'm gonna open up my tabs here. So I guess since we don't have, no, maybe we can get to some capital, because I think there's gonna be a lot of carryover from last year as usual. But does anyone mind if we just go to the narrative first? And just talk about the narrative, which is pretty much, I don't want to say boilerplate, because we do definitely change with the times. But we do, and we expect to have an overview of our district. Identify trends, which I guess that's kind of will be changing. Have our general priorities, our 3 pressing needs. The 3 pressing needs is the what?
They haven't changed.
So, well, I was gonna mention that the 3 pressing needs are usually identified by our survey, and we kind of take off from there. We have sent out the survey, we've gotten about 120 responses, we haven't
I
gone
didn't
through.
see it.
Oh, I saw it, I took it.
Mhm.
It was in the email, or in,
It was a while, it was
Yeah,
a few weeks, it was
yeah.
2 weeks ago, maybe, a week and a half.
Yeah, I can send it again.
Yeah,
We sent it?
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't recall.
You should see it on our link kiosks as well.
Well,
And
I can push them.
Yeah, what we said, right, Jessica?
Yeah, yeah.
We have a whole month, I mean, we have a little while, so we
Okay.
can hopefully get some, we can also spread the word a little more on that, but,
And local press is gonna be sending it out this
That would be
week or
great.
next, so.
that would be great. I don't know how that, usually what we've been getting the last few years is public safety, quality of life, which is really cleanliness, things like
Yes.
that, and affordable housing. Those are the 3 mainstays that would pretty consistently. I don't know if that's gonna change. It might a little bit. But we do have 120 responses. We haven't gone through them at all yet, but we will do that as we get responses, and we definitely will have that for everyone this committee before our next meeting, so we can go through and see if the priorities line up again, or if they line up with what our committees are hearing as well. So does anyone have any comments? Because I want to open it up to you guys on our narrative. I mean, we always have an introduction. We always have, what a little overview of our district.
Well, I should the crime and public safety aspect of it be a little, is it less?
So I guess it'll be interesting to see what the survey says. This is just from what I'm hearing, I expect it to be not as vigorous as it's
Right.
been the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know, I guess
It's also people's perception,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, well,
which has nothing to do with the actual stats.
right,
But it's
Sure.
little to do with the actual stats.
Yeah,
So-
true, but that's important as well, right?
I think it's
Oh, yeah.
important to see whether there is a change there, because that's the big thing we changed the last 2 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, public
So
safety.
that's the thing that we may want to massage, depending what we
what
found.
we get, yeah, I mean, public safety has been the #1 concern, I guess, but it's always been by a very, very wide margin. So let's see if maybe that's changed or the margin has lessened,
Right.
or we can
Whatever,
always-
whatever
Yeah,
it is.
whatever it is, we will reflect that in our 3 top priorities. And of course, we don't, we're not tied to the survey, but it usually gives us a really good barometer and a good direction and framework for our narrative when we hand in our requests. I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the surveys or the responses, but I'm expecting affordable housing will be up there. And I do expect quality of life will be up there as well, at least in certain areas of our district as it pertains to rats or garbage or things of that nature.
You know, one thing we don't have zip code on these.
On the survey?
You don't ask it, you don't ask it.
You should really do it,
And I can edit the survey, but it only been started. It'd be-
Going forward.
maybe I'm saying for next year, just maybe keep it in mind for next year.
Sure.
Yeah,
Maybe, two different views of the same subject.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, even in my district, I mean, I'm on, 8th Avenue or off 8th Avenue. It's much different if you're 8th to 10th,
Right,
it's
sure.
very different. So that would be a good lens to look through. Another thing I wanted to ask you guys, is we were always, I shouldn't say always, we have been the last few years very COVID-19 heavy with our framing our asks, framing our narrative a little bit, and also, and I'm getting ahead because this is going to be later on next year, but our response to the response. So I don't know what this committee thinks about COVID-19 still impacting, how you want to put that in framework, because just so everyone knows, I will do a framework from what you guys tell me. I'll I'll write it all up, and then in our next meeting, we can definitely edit as we see fit. But what do you think about?
Well, I think it should be tentative, because what you have here, the reductions in policing, sanitation, a lot of those things have changed. Sanitation has increased. And still an increase in vehicular traffic. So there might be some parts of the COVID-19 paragraph that could be massaged a little bit.
But I think
But that's still
maybe
there.
the COVID-19, I mean, there is the health and there is the impact on, commuting and businesses, right? So I think we have the health component to that, and the commuting is about small businesses. I mean, the tale of the COVID is that there are so many less people coming, and the massive impact on our small
Economy.
businesses.
The economy of the city.
Huh?
As people stay home and work from home, the economy of the city.
That's right.
I think it's something we can.
That's right. I think there is something there
Yeah, I mean, I know.
about the businesses and the small business and how they're going to survive and the streets, what it does.
Things have changed
Right.
in a way. It's
Right.
a
It's a new world,
new world.
right?
Like
Well,
long
we don't,
term
we're not
impacts.
sure what.
Long term, right.
Right.
And on the
We
health,
know there's change, but we don't know which.
right.
What's,
But
finally,
for sure, we know that the small businesses are suffering, and then the real estate is still not adjusting to that. And what's going to happen? I mean, what is the city going to do about that, giving incentive?
Even being on ACES, I know the arts community is still,
Yeah,
is still
Right.
really encumbered as well. Trying to get that.
well, particularly, I mean, I wouldn't make a citywide statement, that's small business. But in our district,
yeah, right.
particularly has an.
No, we're talking about our district.
I don't want to talk about the
Yeah.
city.
We still have a lot of small businesses open.
Empty stores, we have empty stores.
Right,
Oh, you know what I'm seeing in Chelsea, just as an aside, is that the empty stores are now becoming more entertaining. More
Yeah.
food
That's
service.
retail. That's
So you're getting less of the nuts and bolts of what a community store was in terms of services to the community. It's more of a store that's, trying to get a wider segment of the
What
population.
Scott Stringer used to call stores that sell stuff.
Yeah.
Stores that sell stuff, right?
Yeah, you can't buy stuff anymore.
Can't buy
You
stuff.
can't get, someone to do something anymore. You can't
And
do
then-
it anymore.
the delivery is the big impact, right? This
But you
is,
can certainly go out and eat all the time, right?
right, but yeah, the delivery, the volume of deliveries, the trucks,
And that's the way, you can't stay out.
all that stuff, right?
These places closing.
Yeah.
And then there, in the context of affordable housing, we have underutilized office space and commercial space.
Yeah.
And I think
Hmm.
there is a lot of interest in seeing what we might be able to do, given
Right,
those
right, definitely
opportunities.
make a plug for that. Yeah.
And on the health side, I guess with all the new vaccine or whatever, I don't know who is the expert on the health here, but Is there something to be said about that? I mean, just that.
There's a new vaccine. It's not a booster, it's a vaccine.
It's a new vaccine,
Right.
with a different
Mhm.
object, virus object,
Right.
and that policy described it.
I mean, I think thankfully it appears that federally, they're still shipping out tests, but they're shipping out tests directly to people, but also they're being carried in like public libraries and people are able to get them. And then there is some sort of federal deal with whoever the large vaccine manufacturers provide, a vaccine with a zero charge regardless of insurance status.
Right.
So I think those are helpful things. Testing, however, is, quite costly.
So maybe that's part of it.
Have you're on health and
Yeah.
has anything come up this year? Like COVID related that we should start or?
Nothing comes to
We
mind.
can go over. We
I
can
think
always-
part of it is, COVID created a unique public health shock and other health impacts.
What about the migrants?
I mean, that's a huge piece.
So just so I can go over, it's in the Dropbox, go over, our introduction, our narrative, started with COVID, and what we did, and what I've been writing we've been writing the last few years, has definitely said what Bert has said, is that it particularly hit us, because we're a big arts community, and that has, a big restaurant community. So that's what we kind of, umbrellaed under that, and then we have done, actually, our second paragraph is the migrant crisis, which I think might be a little more intense this year, because now we're seeing a lot more with schools or, different situations that are getting more intense, correct, people think differently. I mean, you're on ACEs, Alan is, as well, you co-chair ACEs. I don't know if you think that's a heavier hand in this.
Yeah, well, it's impacting our schools for sure. I think that's the main pressure. Now things hopefully might lighten up with temporary work permits. I think we should encourage the city to do more what it can to provide some opportunities in some way.
And what's the position on the hotels? I mean, I understand that I'm not totally clear on what the deal is, but I thought every 2 months, they have 2 months and they have to reapply or something.
Now they cut it down to 3 weeks. This week.
So should we make a comment about that? No.
I don't think how much.
Well, if after 30 days, everybody's in the street, what are we going to do? Right?
Yes.
I think,
Or they're traveling elsewhere, or they're going to Schenectady.
they are.
So that might change by the time this all gets printed out and distributed, the whole situation.
Maybe 90 days.
I mean.
That's-
Well, I mean, can we say that we want to at least avoid to have everybody in the streets?
I think you can.
We're not going to say what the solution is, but, any measure that is putting people in the street is not a good idea, right?
Mhm.
I think in the narrative, it's likely worth acknowledging that Adams administration's intended the budget cuts specifically related to expenditures related to the migrant crisis. And just that sort of like understanding that there may be certain essential things that really shouldn't be cut in that process. And I think that chief among them will likely be the sanitation and affordable housing project managers. Been a huge issue on HHHS, and we can't build affordable housing if there are no project managers. So we have found out. Right.
And do we,
Unusual.
do we in some way, shape or form go directly, make a statement about the proposed 15% cut across the board?
50?
15%? Our mayor has proposed that.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't know if that's.
No, I think it's fine. I think Alan's point is valid, though, in that by the time this gets Said-
It may not be
It
there.
literally is next, the final of this doesn't get produced until the preliminary budget.
Right.
So,
I mean, the controllers come out.
it'll have happened or it won't have happened,
Yeah,
or some version, so, I mean, we'll be on record. But I don't
That's all
know,
we
it
need
won't
to do,
necessarily,
right?
it's not necessarily something that's gonna.
No, but I mean, that's not going to be influencing,
But
but,
on record.
but will be on
You
record.
could be on record, I just want to be clear, like, right, just think,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
right, we're not
you're right.
we're not getting in there, if we want to do that, we send a letter at an exec tonight. And go to full board next week, if we want to get on,
Maybe so that-
slightly ahead of the
The
game.
city needs to manage, both sides of the equation somehow, something you just.
Well, it needs to be selective
Yeah, he needs to,
hiring and, it's harder to do, but
You
it's.
do it across the board,
So with tighter budgets.
Yeah, when you go across the board, you are just
right?
wasting
he's
everybody's.
had a higher increase since he got here,
Right,
so.
It's gonna get worse. It's gonna, so just
yes,
most, as many people do know, much of the budget is dependent on real estate, commercial real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that commercial real estate is
Right.
no
Not paying.
longer there because they're empty. And that's billions and billions of dollars. So when we say we're against 15% cut, where, if there's
No,
no.
across the board.
Right,
Yeah,
right, like
it
meaning
right.
not select,
right.
like
It
we
needs
should
to
see
be-
what's a priority,
It
what's
needs to
not,
be
and that should be
selective,
reflected.
and it needs to really select which area has to grow and which area have to shrink, and that's it, that's
as-
hard,
The tax revenues are not really increasing.
not yet.
They
And
will,
they want, and then for the projection for 24, well, we're in 24.
Is Mr. Budget.
But we're in FY 24.
Yeah, we're just.
It's
24.
FY
So the
25.
projections for 20,
yes.
the projections for 25 are also,
Good,
okay, there's no deficit, major.
because
And the
people are
city
going
has
long
resources.
leads, right?
The city has resources, the city has, as they call them, rainy day funds.
So to me, it's just blowing wind. Basically.
No, I mean, they're still spending, I
Yeah,
think
they're
they've
still-
thus far spent $5 billion on the migrant crisis specifically. And believe that they'll wind up spending, I think, something like 12, which suggests, they have to figure out where that money is.
It's gonna come from, yeah.
Well, the government just sent in a check for $100 million, and it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a drop in the bucket.
Lunch.
What happened, from what I understand is, it's like an invoice, you do the job, you send the government an invoice, they send you a check.
when the invoice for $5
$5
billion.
billion.
That's as long as the federal.
No, the question is that-
As you keep spending the money.
Oh, it's a pay as you go, okay,
Pay as you know, as you do.
as you go.
But there's no guarantee after October 1st.
No guarantee yet.
But I think Christine's suggestion of
November.
putting in, not a cut across the board, like really look at
No,
your,
I think, yeah,
look at
We
your
were
budget.
specifically talking about our top priorities,
Yes.
where there are
it is
staffing.
housing, that you have to do it,
Yeah.
right?
You
Just
can't-
like the reform of sanitation, they have to do it, no matter how
Make
much it
priorities,
costs,
yes.
right? They have to roll out that stuff. You
Mhm.
can't continue to have all these containers on the side. Bullshit.
I want to go over, so these were our priorities just last year. And I think people here will kind of agree, but we'll see. And we listed them as bullet points in our introduction, and it was ensuring safe surroundings, priority, public safety with what was big the last 2 years, with us was street beat, NYPD presence, which they have not really.
So it's still,
Increase, still important. Preserving affordable housing, broad range of incomes, maintaining neighborhood character and preventing displacement, providing adequate trash, recycling and composting pickup, maintaining the stability of longstanding local retail presence. And I'm just summarizing here. Developing a coherent, safe, reliable, affordable, and connected transportation infrastructure. And then it has a bunch of bullets under that, yeah, pedestrian place, a bunch of bullets. Building new elementary schools. That's gonna be probably still, and also with the migrants, will probably expand a
I think we need to do something a little different.
little bit different. You don't, none of these resonate?
No, I'm just talking about the overcrowding and the elementary school, I think.
The providing,
What do
Yeah,
you
I think we need to
Yeah.
provide, we need to provide the infrastructure, we need Wi-Fi, you know, I mean, that'll come in our own narrative.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole.
Education. Right.
the details. Yeah, this is just the.
But is it okay for the headlines or not?
I don't know, when we do elementary schools, middle schools, I think,
You think
the
we're
way the trend is, there's, even with migrants and the asylum seekers, there's room.
Okay.
There's classroom space. So
Well, there, you know
I
what,
think we could do, maybe we could come up with a different.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanna change the language.
just as a heads up, now that it's gone through of smaller class sizes, that's gonna be enacted and it's gonna be a must, so that's gonna.
But it's more about, it would be more about the teachers.
What's that?
Right, but I
I
mean,
mean, now
space, you could only have. so
No,
many.
I understand, but should we start with the teachers more than the space, and then we can do with the space?
Yeah,
Seems to me that we're never getting the teachers in the right place.
well, that was the next bullet point, providing the requisite staff and bilingual support in schools, and which kind of goes to what Christine said, and then the last few were renovating, creating additional green spaces, increasing service to homeless and seniors and people with disabilities, and this is really just general overviews of what our specific asks are gonna be. So we usually take it from the specific asks and just kind of pop it up to the top in an umbrella-like fashion. And that was our,
How are we doing with the homeless now? With any complaints? I mean, because now this is the migrants, right? But the migrants put it aside.
in the general,
Yeah, we had such a problem and now are we okay? Or are we back to semi-normal or? We are.
What's normal?
Well, one or two guys around, you know.
Part of the difficulty is that you have many migrants in the general shelter population,
Yeah.
and so. Certainly, there are perks that are specific to migrants who are entering, like New York City or coming here, but I don't know if we've created that sort of separation of the issue. I don't think anything's come before Housing, Health and Human Services specifically related to street homelessness. It seems that
So that's
things
it.
are about where they were in.
It's nothing, right, nothing came. If you have not seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's always
Right.
complaints, we don't always send complaints that housing, health.
Yes, so there was no complaint.
But I'm saying there are certainly hotspots. I mean, there always, I will say that. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you, I think the question is whether the influx of the migrant population has impacted the ability to quickly get folks that what we would call chronically homeless off the street, right? Which is always the difficulty, right? It's, you know, most of the time the migrant population is looking for services, wanting housing of any sort.
Right.
So they're taking it. It's then the
Yeah.
question is, it's the folks that are,
Who's left?
who were there before and who are there now, who typically need much more
Yeah.
attention.
But so at this point, we have not heard any complaint, very, big complaints, so we can.
No, I mean,
We
I
could-
wouldn't say it's any higher or lower. I would say it's average. So I don't think it's like particularly, we're running through a really, particularly high level of,
Right,
let's say, non-migrant based chronic homeless folks. That's, to me, that's not, I don't think, I think it is much more about the housing component side of
Right.
it, is the shelters.
And supportive housing.
Yeah,
We need more supportive housing.
right.
Housing that has social organized staff that are there.
Which are going
Basement.
to be cut,
So what?
which are going to be cut.
I am curious, I know that at some point in the past, the board has gotten a copy of the canvassing reports from Goddard and Project Renewal in Midtown. I don't know if we've had any recent.
yeah, so I get them from, that's something I request. So, yeah, and then, Breaking Ground is the majority, has the majority of the contract for our area. For some reason, it stops at 23rd Street, so Goddard is north. No, sorry, south, getting that direction. South of 23rd Street. I don't have a lot of information about it. Goddard does not have the same, I think, bandwidth to produce that report, but every month I get that report. I can certainly provide those in the
Yeah.
last few months if that's helpful, so you can see, but we send those out. I will disclosure without Janine, my ability to be like forward facing outwards on all of the information. We get been a little bit been hindered, but we certainly can send, we try to send those out once a month. Because I see it as a positive thing for people to see how much work is being done.
Yeah.
People always complain that they don't see anything being done. They can see how many people have been placed that month in our district, how many sites are on the hotspot list, and so they know that this is a site that people are doing work out there.
And I don't know if it will ultimately be helpful, but might also be helpful to share with the Housing Health and Human Services as we go into October. Statement industry was.
You guys should make a summary and present to everybody so we know. No, I mean, I think it's
Yes.
really valuable, like if they were trends or whatever, now you start to see.
Yeah, I
something.
wish more providers were able to do what Raven Ground does.
Right.
It's kind of really special.
And are we going to talk about cannabis?
About.
Cannabis,
Oh, yeah, that should be, no, that's probably one of our, that'd be interesting with the survey.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that, we don't have anything specific because it's not necessarily something that's set up in the budget process. But yeah, that certainly will be
But
something.
it could be in our narrative.
It should be in our narrative.
But is the
Yeah.
issue
That'd be
of
illegal.
cannabis, or is it just?
no, it's the
Illegal
yeah,
shops.
the illegal shops and the rollout.
Yes.
Legalization work.
Yeah.
Butcher.
I mean, we
Yeah,
had
I mean,
many letters on that
Yes,
will
yeah.
back up our position.
No, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Cannabis is perfectly fine.
Oh.
So we're talking about the legal, and we're also talking about. The inability to really come together. And plan
Yes.
the licensing process.
Yeah,
It keeps getting delayed and delayed
I
and
know,
delayed.
it's a disaster.
Would we, so if this is a city,
Typical
would
city
we,
rollout.
would they just say, well, that's not our.
That's a state.
Yeah, I think.
State
I
thing,
think
so how would we-
it behooves you to write it in your
Yeah, it's a
overview
placeholder.
as an issue
Right.
that we're dealing with. And that it connects to what Bert is saying is that, yes, it's a state-run program, but so unless we have a specific budget request to say, oh, we think OCM's budget should be increased so they can do more or something. That's out, that's sort of outside of the document. We can still put it in there and be on record. But again, I want the working group the cannabis working group to put that forward and say that's what they want to do. But I do think,
I'll talk to Jesse.
but I do think it impacts, you can clearly say it impacts multiple, and,
Well, yeah,
it has a
well,
quality of life issue, but then it's also, right, it does impact agencies, so it's like, there should be
Yeah.
thought
I
behind
mean,
it.
I can definitely massage the wording to put it in our in what we have been hearing about, but it might not show up in a specific
Yeah.
budget
but what about,
request.
wasn't NYPD helping into the enforcement or not?
Just recently, because they weren't allowed to before.
Right, so that's,
So, yeah, I think,
That's an
I
aspect
think
of the
Leslie's
city.
right, I think we see what the survey says.
right,
Yeah,
I think it'd be interesting what the survey says.
Hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, so should that be like a paragraph, like we have a paragraph for COVID-19, have a paragraph for this cannabis thing,
I think you should talk to Jesse.
right?
and
I'll
see.
talk to.
yeah. talk to
Yeah.
Jesse.
And I think you see what the survey says, if everybody writes back with cannabis,
Then
then, yeah, you gotta be mentioned.
We should have a
I mean,
song.
it's-
Should chant.
I mean, I think you, yeah, not thinking about it, I'd be surprised if that's not a major.
Yeah, I mean, also we do have a section that says trends, which kind of gives us a little leeway to talk about kind of what we're seeing, what we're hearing in our meetings. I'm sorry.
Quality of life.
Quality of- yeah, right. So when, just to wrap up where we have the priority bullet points. When I wrote these or when, we kind of put them down, they're really just taking them from our line items. And putting them, the most important ones, just to get, hey, look at, this is what you're gonna see in more detail coming down the road in our report. So just to move on, which we kind of touched upon, but the three pressing issues overall. Number one, affordable housing. Number two, crime and public safety. Number three, trash removal and cleanliness, and also quality of life there. that we, not only do we pretty much have this, the survey to kind of guide our hand with those three, but it was what we were hearing across the board. Let's see if that, I guess we'll wait and we can see if that changes, but I don't expect that to change drastically. Maybe the crime and public safety will change. Maybe not. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or on those, keeping that, keeping the format the way it is, not necessarily the specific items.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to probably wait for the survey and then also the committee, by next month, you'll have also the committee priorities.
Yep.
So usually blend those in together, right? I mean, you know, so affordable housing has been number one for you guys for.
Correct, it's like a
decades.
place, it's a placeholder, it's always, yeah.
So.
Okay. Great. So who, and I don't have, I mean, here, I mean, I guess I can send it to, usually someone on this committee gets to write the intro to each of the summary to each of the categories, or it's sent by a chair of the.
Yeah, well, usually
So we
someone
can-
is delegated to do it and then also checks with the co-chairs if they're not the co-chairs already,
Yeah,
right? So.
You mean the intro, this intro, right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
each one,
Summary of community district need healthcare.
correct,
Boom, that's.
healthcare and human services is one.
So usually I do,
Which one do you wanna do?
Yeah.
I do transportation and.
Why did I just ask Christine which one she's?
Yeah,
doing? I just
which
asked
one?
Christine, which one are you doing, Christine? We all
I
have.
already looked.
I'm going to
go
do
with
cannabis.
I took a liberty of breaking it up wrong. From last year, it was pretty much.
Justin is teaching me all cannabis, so now I'm.
Right, so Christine, you usually do transportation.
And I've done the police in the past, but I think some more knowledgeable people have taken that over. Is
Right.
that-
I think
who did that?
Dolores
I think
will do
Dolores
that.
is usually.
Public safety. Maria usually does housing, right, and health.
Well, I would do Roberta. I would put,
The
I would
housing.
put. Yeah, I mean, I would put
Right.
Maria, Roberta, and Jessica in that combo somewhere, right? Housing, health, and human services. I would pick those. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Maria is the chair of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
committee, so I want to
yeah.
give it, yeah. Let's see. Let's. Alan, education
Okay,
And culture.
and culture.
so that culture comes.
Or
from
it's
the
youth, well, youth
I know, but-
education and child welfare.
Yeah,
front.
but
I'll send some info.
Yeah.
We're hackering it together. I don't understand, I mean, was this like, they wanted to keep the groups as lowest number of groups as possible, and culture and arts should have been like a separate kind of thing, you know? it's one
yeah, I
part.
think it's trying to break it into at least somewhat. You know, manageable levels, because then you could break it into how many different groups. So.
Yeah, made it easier.
So we have court infrastructure, city services and resiliency, that includes the trash
That's,
cleanup.
that in the past, that was. Bert.
Bert, you wanna stick with it, Bert?
Trash,
You wanna be the trash king and the court?
And now that trash looks like it's moving over to WP, do you want to collaborate?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not, it's not there yet, but maybe.
We're almost there.
I mean, listen, a lot of this is not gonna change drastically, right? I mean, we all know kind of what we're going with this.
But on trash, we should talk about, you know, the pilots and the, and the rollout of the big. Right?
and the bids.
One of the big bins, right?
Yeah, and there's actually beginning to be some pushback on them.
I saw that article,
People from.
I'm not surprised when
I
I.
think the one up in Harlem, right? That was,
Yeah.
There was a.
When I saw the size of the bin,
and they're not covered or anything, I mean, it was just out there.
but in Spain, when you go to Spain, the size of the bins are like
Yeah.
huge, but there is an edge, so we.
Just to round out, you want to do parks?
Hamilton.
Sure.
So you can do
No,
parks.
I'll
over-
do
I'll do all this anyway.
Yeah, you do
I'll do
overview.
all this anyway, just before.
And then, right, so Roberta, Maria, and Jessica can handle all of the housing, health, and services stuff.
Yes,
Christine can handle transportation. I was doing this myself, so right, that's when I'm gonna chase down in a month.
Super.
Question is, the big question is, how do we want to do this? It's always, every year, it changes. Do we turn it into a Word doc? I mean, I can turn it into a Word doc and then people can send Leslie their edits? Or do we want to do it as a share drive thing? So I
Oh,
don't think
a
that's too
Google, a
long.
Google Drive,
Well,
where everybody changes on the Google Drive.
that's,
That would be good.
Yes.
No,
Wrong, yes.
No.
what, no Google Drive?
No, because you know what, it's gonna be hard, everyone's gonna start editing other people's.
No, because you put comments.
Yes, and so I can set it up, and we did this for,
Right.
the bylaws, where we have it set up where everything is a suggestion.
Yes,
And you as the administrator or whoever it is,
you accept
can
and
then
you
accept, reject, or synthesize in other.
We're asking for
It
it.
took me a while, to get
for
used to the Google, but now
I
I like.
leave it all to you. That's what I'm saying. I've attempted to do it myself and it's been, every time it's a different animal every year, so.
I
Whatever
think
the
the
group
Google
decides. wants to do
Doc
it.
is really good if you do.
Can I
all-
fax you mine?
Yeah, I just wanna be careful because sometimes I think more people put their hands on that Google Doc than others and, you know, I,
Well, that's why I think.
just for balance, it's.
You can only comment. You can't-
Yes.
You're not actually editing.
It's
text.
suggestion, it's
Yeah.
called suggestion, so you put it in
And I
and it's marked suggestion.
Okay,
And then the person who is in charge, you don't give the editing right, you just give the suggestion right.
Yes.
okay, that's not true.
So it's not,
All right, so,
so you don't.
I will put that into a Google Drive doc,
A Google Doc,
Google Doc, and I will
Doc.
share it
Yes.
with, I might need to.
Share it with me.
And you know what, Jesse, I'll break down, I'll just put in what was before. Like, we can just put in what was before and they can work off.
You just
Yeah,
have
that's
to
okay.
pay.
Yeah, right,
I'm just gonna transfer to it, convert it, I have it as a PDF, I have it as a Word document already.
Right,
So I'll just convert it into a Google Doc and then
you just import it and that's it.
I'll just make sure that the restriction things I'm not used to, so I will, might need to call you on that. I'm just gonna-
Yeah, it
Yeah.
says on the right, share the document as, and then you give the
Yes.
rights.
I just like how you all get chosen, it chooses like a random animal. Right? It's so weird. You like go on. and it's like
Dolphin,
You're like,
yeah.
I was like a very bizarre animal today. I was looking at a document.
Okay, good.
All right,
That won't be
That's great.
controversial at all. Bert, just for core infrastructure, just a point, a lot of was talked about. I don't know if we want to put this in front of public bathrooms. Just make it, I know, we
Mhm.
talked about it. And maybe it might go under parks too, but for core infrastructure.
You can't call public works.
well, this one, it's more, it's more infrastructure and city services, so
City
that doesn't, that expands to like sanitation and stuff, so. I think if people have sanitation. Things that either
You think-
update on sanitation, they should send them to Bert. I mean,
Well, I was gonna suggest, housing, was it housing? Oh, no,
So
it
there's
was the
two.
landmarks, they did a letter on, this, from the working group. The suggestion of putting, public bathrooms in the parks.
Yeah, that's what we're talking
That's
about.
right.
So that should be actually a budget request.
It will be.
To do a study.
Everything will be a budget.
but we,
This is just the overview of the.
Isn't
Not just,
that-
not just a narrative about, well, we should have public hearing, there should be.
But that was not a.
it wasn't voted on.
It was voted on, it was a letter.
But
And the
also,
pops.
wouldn't it not be a budget request is the whole point?
Wait a
would be
minute,
to have
it's the, if
private.
it's an ops, it's paid by private
Yeah.
company.
Which is great, yeah, so we don't.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
If it's an ops, it's paid by a private
Getting
company,
mixed up
we don't have to
with what's
spend any money.
Was
Uh,
that an exec?
Well, the city- well, there was a letter, we did a letter on this.
who did?
WPE?
No, the.
No, we
amendment.
received, transportation participated, but there was a letter that came from another, from CB5 or
Right.
somewhere.
I don't think
And
we ever
they
got,
asked
we never
us-
got the letter.
And we changed some of the language
Right,
and we said, fine, we sign up on
it
it.
was a letter in March, we did a letter in March.
Oh,
So
we did
who's
a
doing-
letter, or we signed on the letter?
I don't think we need to do anything because it is either in the restaurants or in the pubs, and both of those things are private. So
I mean,
we are not doing.
Yeah, I mean,
it.
it's not a budget request. that's
Correct.
just-
Right, but we could talk about the need for public, I mean, we heard, we're on the task force for it in Manhattan, isn't David Warren on our task
Andrew.
force? Mark
Yeah.
Levine came to, his office came to our committee.
We did, ACES wrote a letter in support of the,
Yeah.
the study and all of that, so you can put it in, I'm
But
just saying,
if you write
it's not a
about it-
budget.
Right.
Right.
It's not a budget either.
Well,
I mean, unless one of the
Might be.
committee, one of the committees wants to make it.
No, because it is going to be paid by the
no,
plan.
not but just pops, but there's general, like, for instance, we're
Yeah,
writing,
but we can take a position on that.
hold on, we're writing a letter that will come this month, next month, October. Penn South Playground, which is new, we're saying, please put in a public bathroom, and they should be in the parks, and that should be a prerequisite now to any new. I mean, I think the language is a prerequisite to any,
But wait a
Brand.
minute, if it's in Penn South, they should pay for it.
No,
it's a park,
It's a state
it's
park.
a city park.
I think if the.
City parks is different.
Yes,
We have
yeah.
parks,
Right.
we have a bathroom for a lot of parks and a lot of school, but that goes with the parks and with the school.
Right, I don't think we're I don't think we're talking about specific areas or specific locations. I think in general, we're talking about a citywide push, which we have commented on for public, the need for public.
No, I think the point of the working group, from the other committee, the other boards, was the city needs to get the private people to put these in or make access into the buildings that
Right.
they're attached to.
Right.
Right,
So-
and I think what Christina and I are saying is that that's something we can mention in the narrative, but it's not per se, it's a budget item. I mean,
It's a policy item.
it's a policy.
It's like we
I mean,
should say,
you wouldn't be putting that in, you wanted, let's say you would put that in
Yeah.
hypothetically,
Well,
wouldn't
I
they make
would
that
say that they should do
ACE budget
to
priorities?
the city study that as an aspect,
It's on WPE's list.
as a study.
If you want, if the committee wants to make that a priority to say that there should be as money spent on the study, then that's
but
fine.
it should be something we have voted on, right?
Yes, it must, it
And
needs to be
the
something.
board has not voted on.
Right.
Nobody, they will next month.
Also, what do we, sorry, this is ridiculous question, what do we need to study?
Yeah.
How many people urinated the street?
Yeah, how many, you know what, if we don't need to, there will be a letter coming out of.
How many people are issues in the city?
And what the need is, and how can the city, how can the city get these private developers?
I think it's helps.
But Alan, we're not.
How many
How about all these things that are locked up that they keep reporting on? This time did a whole.
Jessica, well,
Well, that's right, it sounds like, we did a letter on pops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and there's gonna be one coming on WPE that includes public parks, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
Exactly.
We got it.
Yeah, yeah,
The one thing I also want to highlight is because the way, like Sal mentioned, that they group these is not always exactly intuitive or how we do it. So I just want to go back to
Yes.
housing, economic development.
I was just gonna say, there's two, I was gonna go over, there's two that says how, there's housing and land use, economic development use, and then there's health and human services, which are separate, is that what you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, right, but when you look at it, right, whoever's taking up housing and human the housing and human service.
Health,
Health thing, that it's not all combined, so someone
Right.
needs to look at housing, someone look at the human services component. And then I think the economic development, historically, Jeffrey actually, I think did economic development.
okay,
Um,
maybe Jessica can get on the housing / land use.
Yeah.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, yeah, right, so Jessica
Jeffrey.
could be doing land use, it's not much, we usually don't have too much on land use, but.
And then Roberta and Maria can do the healthcare and human services.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we want to think about big trends, if we're wanting to talk about big trends that are happening in our district that we might not have a congealed point of view on yet, but we are certainly gonna notice it's gonna be a trend is the Chelsea Night Show project. I mean,
Train?
yeah, well, I'm just saying like, it's
A
happening,
bullet point.
just like cannabis is happening.
Major.
It's happening and we recognize that that is a significant change in land use policy that, and so I mean, again, whether it's a budget item or not, it's a different thing, but clearly it is something that's happening to our district.
But we
What about-
also changing land use is their whole Western Garden Center, which they want to change the zoning from industrial or whatever you want, manufacturing,
Mixed use, right?
to residential, that's
And-
changing land.
That's what you came
And we
right,
also,
right, when you're stuck.
we have.
And we want to do the north side of of the western rail yard, the north side of the rail yards. Hudson Yards.
And we talked about also a
Do we have
letter
a-
Valley between 23rd Street
I don't
and
I mean, we have the
24th Street,
house plan,
changing the land use
which
there.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's in the
It's also
narrative, that we want to do
At least out of
that.
my.
there are
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have one more thing which, I don't know, we've been going around because the city has changed the zoning for sidewalk enlargement. And we have protested on that, we sent a letter, and we've been visiting the different agency, well, I'll tell you, we want to put it in. Say that it was not right.
That can be in your suggestion on the side of the document, remember that, the side of the document. Or you
Yeah,
want to
no,
talk to
and we
Jessica,
sent a letter
yeah.
to DCP and
Yeah.
we've been visiting the agencies and say what gives, right?
Right. Yeah. Unclear if that's part of the trend section that I think Jesse was referring to or a specific ask, but yeah.
Well, this isn't
Well, no, we didn't, tell me if I'm wrong, we didn't, it
a
was,
technical,
it
not,
was an admin letter,
and that
an admin letter, so I don't know if we're technically, because you asked a bunch of questions and we didn't have a
Right.
meeting yet.
so
So I mean,
That counts.
we should put that in the next land use.
remind me, are they everywhere,
They are mostly in Hudson Yards.
so that's Hell's Kitchen, that's what the
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen land use.
Right.
All right, can you send me a reminder about that?
Yeah.
Because I think if we want to get it on, if we want to put that in there, again, I think we have to understand what the budget ask is. If we're,
There's no budget ask.
yeah, so I think it just so clear, so it wouldn't necessarily be in this document, it'd be a letter coming out of the
Okay.
committee.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fine, you're right.
This, please send me the email, so. I'm the new,
So I think we're
I'm
done.
still being Janine for at least another 3 weeks.
So let's go, like, we're done with, I think we're done with this, just to give you notice, because you've done this. We just went over what the introduction is gonna be, if the survey is gonna come out, the same 3 priorities. And we were gonna reflect that, and each assigned person's gonna get their intro, to work off the old intro. I don't know if you had any, I mean, if you saw the Dropbox, if you had any comment, I would love to.
Well, the only thing, just as far as trends, and I'm so sorry, Emily, I have this on my calendar wrong, and I got stuck on a sick passenger train, I apologize, but the trend, I know this is not recent to this year. But I thought it would be helpful if we don't already call out, just our district varies quite significantly from the other trends happening in Manhattan, with regards to, number of growth of total persons under 18 and demographics in terms of
Like
diversity.
census numbers type of
Yeah,
thing?
and if we don't call that out somewhere, that helps, especially from an ACEs perspective, so Leslie, you may want to pull those back, but. Like, we have growing numbers of kids, whereas the rest of Manhattan has a decreasing number of kids, and so that should support our ACEs related asks in ways that maybe other boards don't have that, or other requests that are agency-wide aren't thought of, and so whether that's as a rationale for our asks or part of the trends, I think it's worth noting.
Right, we were just talking earlier about, we did have a bullet point, highlighted about more ask for more. School staff, more elementary schools, and I think this would kind of coincide with the trend.
It just bolsters the
Exactly.
request for that,
Yes.
and I think distinguishes why our district might need this, whereas other districts or DOE might say that's not a priority right now, well, could it be a priority for this district as opposed to everyone?
This is in the community district for trans. It's in there.
Okay, so yeah, just
Yeah,
making it.
it's already in
for
there.
more-
Yes, right, it's also in the bullet point I was reading off, I mean, from
Right.
last
But
year.
I was saying, you could
Yes.
use that in your, whoever's doing the education.
Yeah, the trends is there, you
I
can
would
take it
use
from the
that.
trends and
Yeah,
use that.
use it right now.
Can you?
And the other thing is
send
that
it
we are
to-
growing more than anybody else.
Does it break it down economically?
No.
In any way?
Well, you can go back to the census and you'll find out.
Yes, one, but this doesn't.
Well, there are also new census.
Well,
Well, no, it does say the change in population.
definitely a lot.
But we have
young folks
22
just
days,
getting-
which we should
Yeah,
add.
we're like,
We should add the 22 days.
oh, yeah, the
What is
So
20?
I don't add that, so this is what Jessica's referring to in the document, there's a lot of stuff we just don't add, like DCP.
Yeah, this is
Loads
like
that,
not a section.
that's just what they load in, whatever they load in.
Oh, they loaded
So the
it,
numbers-
that's summary.
Yeah.
Right.
I
The
don't,
numbers we've used are census.
so I mean, I
Yeah.
can make a
Because
request,
a
but
new census estimate, not of those. An estimate.
What do you mean an estimate? You mean the family survey?
The
Just that,
ACS.
whatever.
That's what you're talking about,
Right,
yes,
it
yeah.
comes out every year.
Yeah, but I mean, then it's like, your error is like 7%.
Doesn't matter, it's a number you can throw around.
Directionally, it should provide
Who cares?
trends.
So do we
And then
get that, I
also
guess?
DCP
What?
does have neighborhood profiles
Yes,
where they
yeah.
rank,
They do.
and so you can use those.
yeah, I mean, again, I think it's the thing is, that remember that this, like, we're sending this in and it doesn't get sent to us until next year, so they're gonna be pulling, but.
Whatever number they feel
Yeah,
is.
yeah, so, I mean, we should definitely use, I think we should definitely use the data to bolster our arguments, especially if they're providing it already, and we can put that into the usage thing, just if you can.
I can send you I can
Right.
send you the community, the thing, DCP has a community profile and you find all that stuff there.
Yeah. I mean, we can always say it's trending upwards and it's not gonna not, be, we don't have to do it exactly. Just say it.
Well, although
Only
only
growing.
here, so
Yes,
I can't imagine it's all that much more.
That's what I'm saying, after
So,
2 years, right?
Yeah,
right.
Especially after COVID,
exactly.
yeah.
numbers
This
went
might be
down.
safe. Exactly, this is probably safe data, so that makes.
In that next round, are you expecting, so you're expecting us to create our, headings, right?
The narrative.
The narrative. Should we also try to send you what's completed?
You want
As
the
in-
budget requests?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Without
Like the
creating,
capital,
without creating the new capital request, but we can look at it and say, hey, that's done.
yeah.
I mean, I know,
Because then you can enter that as everything which is done or becoming continuing support, right? And then we can work just on the new stuff or the stuff which is not done.
Yeah, I mean, typically we're able to plow through capital pretty quickly. I mean, what we do is we focus on the top. We go
Yeah,
top 15 to 20,
right.
and then the rest sort of falter down. So I think,
Exactly.
yes, I think it'd be great if you look at the budget requests, responses and requests and say, yeah, that's pretty much done.
That's what we did,
we
continues
take
to
it
flow,
off.
Right, we did that as transportation last time.
Yeah, so,
We said, okay, all that stuff is done.
yeah, so if you send that in advance,
Yeah,
that's great, because then we can.
then you can remove it from the discussion.
We'll have it faster, we'll have an easier conversation come next month.
Right.
Should we do that?
And then,
Should we
and
attempt
then
that?
Leslie can create
Yeah,
this-
we should do that now,
We
but
can do
not now,
Yeah.
but between now and then.
No, but I mean, we have some, what time do you want this to be over for our next?
Well, I mean, we have exactly
Half an hour.
6:30, so I would say, what, 20 minutes?
So why
So it's
don't
up to
we,
you.
why don't we go through capital, not to prioritize? But
And
just to say, this was fun, where we know, this is funded, so then we don't have to when we all go home and look at it, we can,
exactly.
let's just go and, is that okay, Jesse?
That's fine, I just want to acknowledge there are 3 members of the public in attendees,
Oh,
so if
do we want?
you
that?
folks who are
Yeah.
here to listen, I already see Mary.
Hands raised.
Hands raised,
Oh,
so.
Oh,
I
let's-
can't see.
Jesse, can you switch it so that we can see the?
Yeah, see where, yes, Miriam.
Hi, Miriam, if you unmute yourself.
Miriam is.
Am I unmuted?
We hear you.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay. I did respond to the survey, and I knew there was a meeting tonight, so I wanted to hear some of the dialogue. I have in the survey advocated for accessibility and getting an elevator on 23rd Street, 6th Avenue. And I don't know if this is going to be on the agenda because that was one of the areas that seemed to, pop up. So I want to get that on the radar. If you remember a couple of years in 2019, Colin Wright advocated for an elevator on 23rd and 8th Avenue with ARP and Penn South. There are a lot of senior centers There's low-income housing, the NYCHA housing, and 23rd and 6th Avenue has Sellis Manor, which is a residence for people with disabilities. I've been advocating for that, and I'm writing up something about that. And I've already spoken to some electeds who said to send the letter when I finish it. And we're supportive, and I'm wondering if that can be something that could be included in your advocacy and possibly financial support. I know that participatory budgeting in one of the districts in Brooklyn got 250,000 towards an elevator in the subway. I think it was Park Slope. It was a couple of years ago. Currently, I'm a member of Elevator Action Group. We were asked to sign on getting an elevator on Broadway Junction. And there's money from the DOT. There was a fund for that. So I want to get just that issue
So,
on the radar.
Miriam, I'm glad you brought that up. It's
I'll
our
put another
understanding
letter.
that, it's our understanding that that has been discussed in the past at community board, and there has been a letter of support, Christina, transportation.
I think so, no?
I don't know.
28 and 9, we can put it on the next.
What's the-
one.
That's a good idea, but the budget, we're starting that tomorrow night. No,
What's the,
Thursday, day 57.
Are you asking
Oh, wait, hold on,
23rd and
let's, one
6th?
second. let's
what's the
know.
location, Carrie?
23rd and
That
6th.
would be a good, that would be.
I know
good,
that in the
right?
28th Street letter, we asked for an elevator, but I don't know whether it was on 8th. I think it was on 8th Avenue. not on 6th.
Okay, I'll double check.
Otherwise, why don't you send a letter and we can ask?
Yeah, okay, so Miriam, I don't know if you heard all that, sorry, we're discussing amongst ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
will,
I'm not hearing you that well. Maybe it's the new hybrid, but I'm not, and I have the closed captions on. I'm not hearing you that well, but go on. I'm sorry.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna double check to make sure whether we have written on that in the past or not. And obviously, if we have, we can include it into the conversation. But Christine Berthet, who's the co-chair of Transportation Planning, is gonna, if it's not been written on in the past, we can add it to the agenda coming in October for discussion. And you could obviously attend that virtually, like you're doing tonight. Can you do me a favor? You have my email. Can you email me that request to bring it onto the agenda for the month of October?
Okay, I will, and I have a draft of the letter that I've been writing, and I can tell you that if you remember, 23rd and 6th was closed for months for renovation and no elevator, which is now against the law with the new lawsuit that the disability advocates won, except they won't go back in time because I've already spoken to the lawyers who were on the case, and they won't make up for bad behavior in the past and add an elevator to 23rd and 6th. So it has to be advocated for.
Understood, Miriam. So you send me that letter as well, attach it to the email, and we will work on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miriam. Also, we can also, even if we don't have a letter on that specific subway, we can still have it in the conversation. It's kind of like, we ask for street cops. We don't need the specific precinct, but we can advocate for it. Well, I'll leave that up to you, where you,
Yes.
you think that's kind of falls. Okay, should we let, what, if we can, there's no more hands from the public, right?
I have not seen any.
Okay, if we can bring up, if everyone can bring up capital, at least let's get through maybe just to see what's been funded.
So this is your top 6 capital requests.
With Alan's favorite response.
Yeah, I would not put much. I mean, if it is a positive response, it's probably accurate. But the responses this year were dreadful across the board.
Yeah.
No, but we're just talking about stuff which has been done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we know.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah. So number one, I think, is always a I shouldn't say always a constant number one, but for what we're going through, provide more housing for special needs, formerly homeless. Number two, other affordable housing programs. Number three, we know that's not funded, the NYPD facility and substation in 10 Precinct Hudson Yards.
I mean, is this ever gonna happen? Do we need to do this without and
The ask for the Hudson Yards stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was high up and in the top 10 because A, it's a big ask, and B, it's because it kind of coincided with our public survey request. And,
Yeah,
you know,
It was-
it was reflective of the public safety.
Yeah,
concern.
yeah, it was,
And that
I
yes.
mean, it came out of a need to make sure we're, the capital
Addressing,
requests
yeah.
matched what our priorities were, and what was the request, and I think folks from, I know folks from Housing, Health and Human Services had, you know, heard from the 10th precinct, I think maybe even Christina, I can't remember, like, had conversations with the 10th, and that the idea that there could be a
oh,
possible-
a substation.
the substation concept, you
Right.
know, was an idea. I mean, I think it was really, it came out of it was an invention per se, to, as a capital, to put it a capital public safety need. So if there's something else we want to change, for that too, that's fine, but that's sort of where.
I mean, we can go over that next time,
Yeah, I
but I
think
think
it-
we actually keep pushing on. I think
Yeah.
we're just starting to push on that, right? And actually, it does say the agency supports this request.
It does, yes.
Sorry, one administrative question. I printed the statement, like the packet itself, and this has different agency responses than what's here.
Mhm.
Why would that be?
That's a great question. I cannot tell you. I mean.
It might,
But this is the accurate one?
That's the one that was for, so that
Updated
what
one.
you're sending out, what you're reading was sent out during the preliminary budget. This is the most recent
be
document.
updated, yeah.
Now, again, it doesn't, what it doesn't always do is provide the link. The preliminary responses are always linked. For some reason, the
For an
preliminary
example.
responses are always can be somewhat more thorough. And then, like I said, this year, again, there was a snafu in a number of agencies where their responses were basically just copied and like mass copied over, like Parks's agencies or responses were just not, they didn't have anything. So,
Well, just as an example, this one for the first one says the agency will try to accommodate this issue with existing resources, whereas this says requires further study.
which one is?
Like literally the first one.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
can't,
it is.
that's a great question. I don't have an answer, you know, for that.
I
That's
guess
what I'm
it's
saying,
not done.
the further
We should still
study,
ask for it.
yeah, I mean, the first thing,
You brought that?
the answer will solve it
And even
with
people have-
existing resources, basically means they're not gonna put money.
We're not. doing that,
And then this requires, my question is, what is the difference between that answer really? And this request occurs further study, is it the same?
Holder.
So
like,
it's the same answer, just
Yeah.
with saying it differently.
Yeah.
Jesse, you know what, actually, before you came, actually, I think before you came too, I mentioned that, are doing a Zoom. Was it Friday at 11, with DCP, Department of City Planning, Jess?
Yeah.
And they're doing it this year, which is great with all community boards, and if you want to participate, Jesse's gonna send out the invite. They're going to kind of explain to us, walk us through their responses, why they respond the way, maybe not why they respond the way they do, but kind of give us a little insight on the language they use and how we can navigate that.
How to read the tea
But,
leaves.
yeah. But-
Exactly.
But for clarity's sake, it's just for us.
Yes,
Meaning it's just not, I mean,
It's not for all.
DCP is offering it to do it for other community boards,
right.
but the meeting
It's
is
just for community
with,
boards.
so they're gonna take our responses, they're gonna
Yeah,
take,
it's gonna be very,
That's great.
yeah, and,
Okay.
yeah. This is the first year their DCP is offering to do that, which I think.
And we're gonna
so
take
you should
advantage of
advantage
that, yeah. So on number 4, actually Christine,
Done.
those are done?
Yeah.
So we know 4 is out. Okay. So we can take capital.
Yeah, the other day I passed in front of it, it's done. Huh.
great. Expand the Office of Technology and provide reliable high-speed Wi-Fi in all schools, Alan.
Yeah, we have to send this to a different agency, OTI.
Okay, number 6, we know
No.
that's not done.
We did send it to them.
Did we?
We sent it to the mayor's office. It's a mayor's office of media entertainment, did we not?
No, it's under the Office of Technology,
Is it OTI?
OTI, now.
Okay,
That's what they do.
Okay.
okay.
But we just know it's not done, right?
No.
We know shore power is not done. Number 7, provide
That's a
funds.
bravo for attending
but-
the press conference. about it.
Yeah, I went to
They
Brooklyn.
just funded.
You made it all the way out.
Oh, I went to Brooklyn. I didn't even know where that was.
She went far.
So did Kansas, and Jennifer also showed up. There was shore power.
We can take number 7 off, which
Yeah.
is the,
Yeah.
7's gone.
Yeah.
we got that. we got-
Oh, the cut, yeah. Again, Christine, number 8. These are the installation of islands with the permanent concrete.
No, it's not all done.
Not done, okay. Number 9, nope, do it Clinton. Number 10. Where is this?
Some of it's done.
Okay.
We need to get some specifics on what schools.
Yeah, so we,
So I mean, we should, I mean, but they're saying this is completely funded,
Mhm.
so. I will just say, I think,
Yeah.
It's done.
but it's done. I
No.
mean, you can say continued support,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna get the answer.
no, wait, no, well, if it's not actually done.
Well,
I was saying they funded.
But then we should get clarity on what the timeline is, like.
Yeah,
No, not in this.
Yeah.
The budget,
Offline.
the budget does have funds for PS 33 and PS 41. That's in,
Well, 41's not us, that's Greenwich Village.
Oh, great.
and so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking this, I'm reading the wrong, so this is the school one, I apologize. Right, so I think we need to be more specific.
We talked about that in ACES, right? Like when we talked to our, we had that
You
Zoom.
guys, I wasn't on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
so, but there's certain schools, right, that,
We're gonna be
Yeah,
very
they
specific.
funded 33, oh, 41's not us?
No,
So is it funded or not?
not entirely.
Okay, so we need to keep it on.
Yeah, and we're gonna be
That's it.
more, when we'll meet.
I
we'll
think
be
you
more
update the
specific,
language.
too.
You update the language, but you need to
Yes.
keep it on.
because they're gonna keep on saying it's already been funded.
We are talking about the things which are done here. If they are not
Yes.
done, we're never going to
Exactly.
be
They're
done.
not done, they're funded. So like.
Not all,
so like
not
the
fully,
school-
No,
But is
wait
it
again,
fully
I'm sorry.
funded?
no,
You're, but the school's fully funded, but
It's-
the
it's
school's fully
not.
funded?
33.
over how many years?
Well, yeah, but we're
$25,000,
talking,
that's
but
what-
our request is for expanding all. The
Yeah,
places,
that's-
bathrooms.
so I think Jesse, we talked about this with superintendent.
Mm.
I think we are going to refine the request to be very specific. Like, please
Sure.
fund these.
Got it, yeah, okay, well, like what we do in parks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's
like,
have
and like
specific parks
I
that-
gave Christine as an example, she does
Yeah.
specific corners,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, no, really, that's how, yeah, right.
Mhm.
Number 11, has anyone seen elevators at Harborview Terrace that have,
I haven't talked to Maria Guzman
All right,
about this
okay.
yet, and I'll throw this out to the folks at Housing Public Human Services, it would be wonderful if we could somehow get it coming out of that committee, because it's, I know it's hard, but like, getting at your requests is not easy, but like,
I'll call Maria and Joe. to
you know, and
report
this,
it.
someone, you know,
But what do you mean coming out of this
Like a
committee?
letter.
not even a letter, but like someone that's spoken to
Oh.
Maria Guzman, who's the TA president, and reporting it out at the committee.
Yeah.
Saying this is what the TA is saying they need, you know,
Oh,
and rather than, because in the past, it's literally been me calling Maria. That's just a closed loop conversation. Okay, great, yeah, I think it's.
so she has to call a meeting, that's what you're saying.
Even if Jessica can report out, just the same way the ACES reports out,
Yeah.
to say that I had a conversation with the TA president, they're saying this is still an issue.
Yeah.
Or not an issue, this is a public conversation rather than.
Right, rather than
Just saying.
Yeah, it's just
oh, this is what
offline, just
Rita
updating.
wants.
not
Yeah.
Susan Settler.
And let's do this in 3 minutes, right?
Right.
12, MTA, extend the 7.
Yeah.
So there, 13, Alan, this is, security cameras,
Some have, again.
same situation, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll
Clarify
detail that.
that.
14, this is,
Not done.
not done, 14, okay, again, 15, Christine.
Not done.
Not done. 6, oh, no,
I'll
you're
speak to
right,
Maria
I
about
like
that
you,
also.
You should know.
I should know that. Did you like my letter to Chelsea Pierce? 16,
I'll speak with her, but I'm assuming.
same thing, okay. 17.
We have to follow
Follow up, okay, not done. 18, no ferry, the ferry service. 19, let's see. No, Matthew Palmer's does, they are doing Chelsea Park, okay, I think we have to refine 19. 20,
up.
Jim Floor, okay, and then.
Yeah, I'll get that stuff for you, to you guys before your committee. The principals of responded.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
Like 21, is not funded, but it has to be refined to, I guess, or updated as far as the DSNY aspect we talked about. 22, the sidewalk. We're not done. Number 23, though you saw my email to Steve at Parks, right? I CC'd you, I said, hey, give us your new list. If
yes,
there's a new
you're
list.
gonna have to chase them down.
Yeah, I know.
It's impossible.
23, sanitation. Is,
Lovely man. Overwhelmed.
he's off.
So that's Steve Simon.
Yeah.
The curbside recycling, no, not done.
Must have been a teenager.
What do you mean? There is, no? Oh, recycling.
It wasn't one of
My best friends.
Guys, 24, Alan, 24,
No, don't worry, we can't do any of these specific schools because we're getting the principal's responses as we speak. So
Okay.
I think we can drop this.
which one is
This
this?
sign.
Oh, yes, you can drop the sign, sorry. You can drop the sign. They have something else, but we can drop the sign.
24, okay, it's gone, good. 25, renovate.
I don't know why that says question mark.
Yeah, there's a few of that though, I think it's just, and that's weird, because that's up above too, but I'll take a look at that. 26, nope, not done. 27,
Are you working on?
Gertrude Kelly, no, none of these were,
No.
no. And then we won't go through
Maybe
continuous. I guess we should, any movement on continuing support, Jesse?
No, well, yeah, the standard. I mean, establish a standard family shelter, children's shelter, we did that, we got 2, so it kind of.
Oh, that's right. Take it off, we got what we
I
wanted.
mean, we still
Stop
want to
asking.
support it, but like, we got
We got it.
more than we asked for, so.
Number 1, we have.
The other one is schools, yeah, these are all.
45 though is the EMS station.
Schools.
What?
45.
45.
Yeah, but it's not done, right?
It's
Wait,
not
what's
done.
45?
Oh, there's no 45.
There's no
Oh.
45.
But
on
it
this.
is on,
Relocation of.
Yeah, but
it's
we got that,
provided-
that's been approved, I mean, it's moving to 29th Street, so we got that.
So do you want, we can take it off?
Wait.
I know, I want to continue to support it
It's all
until
continued support,
I can walk in it.
Yeah.
Have to build the building.
What?
The building is
But
not
the
done.
funding is there.
Yeah, but that's
Funding
not
is
good
there.
enough.
Well, I'm saying we keep on continuing support. Continuing support is an endless.
No,
Yeah,
by the way-
That's like the class I don't want to go into. It's.
25 years.
Until we can touch it.
Should we be talking about the slaughterhouse building? We don't have that.
That's in this, slaughterhouse in this.
It's continued support.
Yeah.
But I mean, shouldn't we put that back on the top because it's.
Wasn't it?
No, I mean, again,
I don't think it's gone.
And again,
Where is
it
it?
can't, well, I don't know about the financing.
Yeah,
Didn't they get a developer?
no,
Yeah, they got.
I don't think the
developer, they
developer
got-
person, the developer doesn't have the money anymore.
Oh, there's a lot of financing issues with that. I assume it's related to the expiration of the 421A program.
But I mean,
Let's do about that.
Which will,
I think housing has to make that decision.
You guys need to talk
Yeah, they
about
have
it because this has been 10 years now. And I feel really guilty about it. Under my, under my time. Where we said, yeah, let's do that, it's gonna be easy.
You're great.
And Tom Duane said, you're crazy, don't do it. But now I feel really guilty.
Alan, are there new bleachers at environmental studies?
Yeah, the bleachers I think is done, but again, let's not worry about the individual schools yet, because
Okay,
I don't have my list in front of me.
I mean, everything continued support is mostly the DOE.
Yeah,
Okay,
What I'm suggesting is.
I guess we can choose that.
yeah, so you got a couple things off the list, so you got to clear up some space to put out some new capital priorities.
Water
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bloodbath still.
Right?
No, you guys have made it really nicely.
Anyway, do we have to do a motion to adjourn this one?
You do have to do a motion to adjourn.
Okay, do I?
Motion to adjourn.
Any second? Any
Yeah.
second, guys? Motion to adjourn?
Just
Yeah,
Thanks. All right.
Hold on one second.
Thank you guys very much.
I think she's gonna make me.
Look, say that again.
Yeah.